This is probably one of the most painful videos I've ever had to make. And I mean it. And especially since I don't have access to YouTube anymore, I'm here on BitChute. This is a video that I really had to think long and hard about putting on BitChute because I know, BitChute is a free speech channel, and I appreciate that. But BitChute, and we have to be frank, BitChute is full of stomped down racists, okay? Bunch of stomped down incel. Not everybody, obviously, not everybody, not even, but a lot of people on BitChute are just are losers and racist. And I really had to hesitate to put something like this, a video that is so painful on a site like this for people to celebrate and to fetishize over. But I feel that um, I have to use the powers that I have to talk about this. And if this is the way that I can talk about this, then so be it. But I'm going to tell you, this is a very painful video. I take no joy in making a video like this, but I feel this is something that has to be said because a lot of my people, and when I say my people, I mean Black people, especially Black people of my generation, starting with the late baby boomers, but especially the millennials, the Gen Z Black people, who really, I don't think, have been told this and who need to be told this. It's very painful, but it needs to be spoken about, especially now that we're talking about the Queen dying. And this is a lot. This has been going on even before the Queen. Uh, all this talk about Black oppression and all this sort of stuff. I was watching a clip about a Black African, a political leader, Julius Malema. I'm sure many of you have heard about him. He is the head of the EFF. It's a Marxist Leninist African, South African political party. And he talks about how Africa should not mourn the death of the Queen, which, to be honest, to a certain extent, I agree with. I mean, I'm glad that, a lot of these former British colonies are not recognizing this foreign woman as their head of state. That doesn't make any sense. I'm a Canadian. I don't think she should be head of state of Canada. I don't care what some old crusty ass boy or woman who says that their grandmother comes from England says about how it's our history. No, it's not our history. It's not the native people's history. It's not the French people's history. It's not the Vikings' history, all of whom came before the English. And if you think so highly, then move back to England. Then, if that's what you think, no, I think that the Queen and her family should only be the head of state of the United Kingdom, of Great Britain, and Northern Ireland, and that's it. Having said that, Julius Malema, who I will show you now, Miss Engineer, if we can put up that video, he talks about how we should not mourn the death of the Queen, how the Queen is a colonizer, and Britain is the reason for South Africa's problems and all this sort of stuff. Well, let's listen to this, and Miss Engineer, let's play this, and then I will come back with my thoughts on this speech, and I believe the attitude of a lot of modern Black people, not just in Africa, but in the Caribbean and in America, and even many of them who managed to get themselves into Europe and all those other places. So, Mr. Engineer, let's play.
It will be wrong of me to leave this mic without saying to Britain and everybody else who can, we do not mourn the death of a colonizer and a murderer who came and killed our people, and she's wearing proudly a stolen goods on her head. We have nothing to do with the Queen. Ba utswa di-minerale tsa mo Africa, ba utswa di-minerale tsa all over Africa. Today, people tweet, hey, we mourn the Queen. But when Helen Zille tweeted and said that not everything is bad about colonialism, you all said Helen Zille is a racist. How can she praise colonialism? By mourning and praising the Queen, you are celebrating colonialism. You are not different from Helen Zille. We were not colonized by the land called Britain. We were colonized by the leadership of Britain that killed our people. So we must not be asked to do wrong things here. We are very clear. The Queen does not represent anything good. Britain has got a lot of gold, yet they don't have a single mine of gold. Those are stolen goods. We must talk about reparation. We must talk about the return of the gold. We must talk about the return of the stolen diamond, and not these other side issues which are not important to us. How can you be oppressed for so many years? After liberation, you've got nothing to show that we have been liberated. You have no land, you have got no bank, you've got no mine. The only thing you have is a hatred of other Africans. It was this Queen who gave us surnames, by the way. This Britain, we did not have surnames. We were calling each other Kadirejo Jarina. The surnames and the addresses, we did not have an address because they move up from year to year according to the season. So today, we are given address, we are given borders, we are given surnames because we must be controlled by a certain nation which we must celebrate. We, as Black people, everywhere else we are one thing.
All right. So that was, excuse me, let me put this back in. That was Julius Malema. He is the leader of the economic freedom fighters in South Africa. It's a very growing political party in South Africa. And by the way, they do make a lot of good points. I will say that they do. And let me now come to my analysis. First of all, when he talks about how we have nothing to do with the Queen, I agree with him. I do agree 100%. I do agree. And by the way, I'm not talking about going back to the days of colonialism. I don't want to go back to the days of the Queen being the head of state. Hey, listen, people who know me know as a Canadian, I'm a Republican Canadian. I believe Canada should have its own head of state. We should not be recognizing the Queen as our head of state in Canada. Let her stay in Britain. If I was British, I'd be a monarchist, but not here and not anywhere else. I agree with that. Now let's get to the painful bit. And what you just heard is something, this is the attitude of most Black people today. This is what you would hear. This old ass woman, she's a right. And this is not just the attitude that Black people have for the Queen, but of most white people and most white things. He talks about stolen goods, the gold, the diamonds that were used to be put on the Queen's crown. Okay. When we talk about colonialism started from around the 1600s. That's when colonialism really started, when the Portuguese came to Africa. Prior to that, prior to the 1600s, back during the Roman era, when they were crucifying Jesus Christ and, the Black Death and the Greek Empire and Plato, no white person set foot on the continent of Africa. And when I say the continent of Africa, I'm not talking about Egypt or, those type of places. I don't consider that. That's not Africa. I'm talking about sub-Saharan Africa, where my ancestors come from: Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, the Congo. No white person set foot on the continent of sub-Saharan Africa from those times when they were dying of the Black Death and Roman Empire and the age of enlightenment and those things. Black Africa was all black all the time. They had access to all the gold, all the diamonds, all the rubies, all the minerals, everything. There was not one, there was nothing you could say. There was no excuse, none whatsoever. And we did not do anything with those gold, with those diamonds, with anything. Now, I'm not saying that colonialism was right or, the fact that stolen thing. I'm not saying it was right, but, what I'm trying to say is that when Britain was building Oxford, Oxford University or Cambridge University, that is an old university. That university, I believe, goes back to the 1300s. Oxford University, one of the oldest universities in the world. I've actually been there before on the campus of Oxford. And I'm just trying to, I'm getting my producers here. If we can, okay, we've got it. Mr. Let's put this up here. Oxford was created in 1096. 1096. That makes it one of the oldest learning institutions in the world. And this was being built when nobody knew about Africa. Nobody knew about Black people or anything like that. Slavery, that wasn't even a thought. If anything, white people were enslaving each other. And when they were building these things, I mean, yes, we did do some things, built Timbuktu and all that stuff, and that's not to be smirked at. We can do things, but the thing about it is that we really were not doing what our full potential could allow us to do back in when they were building those things. Now let's skip forward to colonialism. We talk about colonialism. It was the worst thing on earth. Okay, let's talk about it. The worst thing on earth. It's the worst thing that ever happened to Black people. Fine. We demanded independence, and independence was going to set us free. We were going to start building our nations. We were going to be in the sunlight now. So we got our independence. And nothing improved. Why has nothing improved? Well, it has to be the Queen. The Queen is still our head of state. She's still our head of state. How can we have this foreigner as the Queen of Ghana, as the Queen of South Africa, as the Queen of Nigeria? So they demanded a republic. They got it. They got the republic. And now Africa has presidents. Africa has no foreign head of state anywhere. And still, nothing has improved. Now they talk about reparations. Reparations, even though, let's be honest, Britain gives billions of dollars, and I believe this is wrong too, but Britain gives billions of dollars in aid to all these African countries, billions of dollars, and still nothing has improved. Nothing has improved. And what I'm about to say is very painful. But the problem is not colonialism or the Queen or reparations or lack thereof. The problem is niggerism. The problem is niggerism. And it needs to be talked about. When we stand up here and we talk about all this Black Lives Matter, we must tear down this statue. If only we tear down one more statue, our lot will improve. If only we elect one more Black president, our lot will improve. We elected this Black, not even fully Black, Barack Obama, not even Black. And he didn't even care about Black people when he was president. He cared more about LGBT and illegal aliens. Barack Obama, not even fully Black. We elected him and everybody jumping for joy like as if, no, the time has come. We are now, and nothing improved. In fact, things got worse with Obama. Things got even worse with him. Things got even worse with Barack Obama. In fact, things were better with just and this is not me saying it, this is the statistics. The statistics say that we were better under Donald Trump than we were under Obama. And now we electing all these black mayors and black governors and black this and black that and black and hating on the white man. If only we hate the white man more and this and that, and still nothing improved. You look at the Japanese, look at the Chinese, look at the Arabs. I mean, I was looking at the procession of all the foreign dignitaries heading into Buckingham Palace now for the funeral, getting ready for the funeral of the Queen, and all the I mean, you see some of the vehicles. You know, most of the heads of state, they're coming in buses and stuff. The nicest, most beautiful vehicles are owned by the Arabs, and people don't like Arabs. I mean, Arabs, they were colonized. They were colonized by Britain after World War One. They were treated, and even now, I mean, you talk to most white people, they hate Arabs like nothing. Arabs are treated like dogs in Europe. People hate Arabs. People, you think being black is hard? Try going to bumfuck West Virginia or wherever with a turban on you would probably be killed. And yet Arabs, you go to UAE, you go to all these places, beautiful roads, beautiful infrastructure. They have managed to use their natural resources to suit and benefit them. Look at the Chinese. The Chinese, I mean, the Great Silk Road and, the opium scandal, and they were colonized too. I mean, Japan was bombed back to the Stone Ages by America. 2 nuclear bombs dropped like a mofo on Japan, and Japan has come back from that. They have one of the most modern economies. China is about to take over the world. I mean, China is literally about to take over the economic world. They have come from being a bunch of sandal wearing, rice eating, poor as all outdoors, nothing, to becoming a country which will, in the next 10 to 20 years, probably take over. Look at India. I mean, we can do it. We're not inferior. It's, I mean, these are countries which are doing better than most white countries. Look at the Jews. The Jews have gone through a history of being hated in Europe. The Jews literally never had a homeland to call them. They were kicked out of Russia. They were kicked out of Eastern Europe. They were kicked out of Egypt. They were kicked out of Israel. They were kicked out of Germany. They were almost murdered. Every single Jew was almost murdered in Germany. I mean, the Jews, they've been through hell, and look at them today. They literally run. I mean, the Jews, you even smirk about Jews, and you're risking your life, you're risking your job opportunities. I mean, the Jews, look at Israel, look at their military. I mean, they have come back from centuries of hatred and oppression and colonialism, and they now have turned around and they're not running the place. So when I hear Black people talking about all of the things they've gone through, and the white man has done this, the white man has done that, we need to get rid of this statue, we need to get rid of this queen, we need to not celebrate the queen, well, if only we get more reparations, if only we elect this, if only we elect that. No, that's not the problem. The problem is you, brother. Problem is you. Problem is you. And I'm not saying that because Black people are inferior. I mean, we built Black Wall Street. Before the Great Society and all this welfare from all these Democrats in America, Harlem, New York was a Black community. And it still is, even though the gentrifiers are trying to throw us out. Harlem, New York was a very thriving community. People were wearing beautiful suits and hats and making music. All the companies were Black owned. The stores were Black owned. The churches were Black owned. Everything was Black owned. All the businesses, Black Wall Street, all this sort of stuff. And we can do it. It's only ever since the 60s, when the late baby boomers came around, and the Stokely Carmichaels and the Jesse Jacksons and the communists and the Marxists and all these people, and the Black Lives Matter and the Jesse Jackson, the Al Sharptons coming around, and even to some extent the Martin Luther Kings and all this sort of stuff, going on about the white man and blah, 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 all of our problems and all this stuff. Meanwhile, the Chinese and everybody who have also been through a lot of stuff, they focused on building their own economies and their own communities, and we're just sitting here bitching on about the white man. It's not going to help us. So to any African who's listening to this, don't think that getting any reparations from Britain or having your politicians who can fight amongst each other, who can be as rude and as nasty, who can be the most rude and who can be the most nasty about the Queen dying, don't think that's going to help your position. It's not. It's not. It's definitely not. We have a responsibility to look within ourselves for a change and see maybe is there something we can do in order to improve our lot in life. And I'm so sick and tired. And I'm not saying that I disagree, but these politicians in Jamaica and Bahamas and all these Caribbean islands talking about, oh man, we got to get rid of the Queen now. We got to get rid of the Queen. We got to get rid of her as head of state, because she's the head of state of Jamaica and Belize and Barbuda and Bahamas and all these other ones. And now the Queen has now become the new thing to bitch about in the Black community. If only we just get rid of the Queen, everything will be okay. We just got to get rid of the Queen. Barbados got rid of the Queen last year. Last year, she's gone. She's not the Queen of Barbados anymore. She was up until 2021. Nothing has changed in Barbados. Country's still poor as hell. I bet you the government is just as corrupt. And Barbados is not the worst of them all. The Caribbean countries aren't as bad as the African countries. But, listen, I even made a joke on social media. Julius Malema, they're talking about all the gold, the supposed gold that Britain has. And I say, Britain, give back the gold to South Africa. Give it back to them. And just wait 15 years. You'll see that gold again. When those politicians and all those people who love to put money in their Swiss bank accounts and their Bermuda bank accounts, you'll see that gold again. Give it back to them. Next 15, 20 years, that gold will go right back to Britain or Switzerland in a Swiss bank account where the political leaders will be able to keep it for themselves. Just wait, give it back to them. Give it back to them. It's a good PR move. Give it back to them, and you'll see in the next 15 years, you'll see that gold go right back into your bank account. Just watch. In Zimbabwe, you had a leader named Robert Mugabe. And what Robert Mugabe did, because, Zimbabwe used to be called Rhodesia. And Rhodesia was an evil country. I'll give you that. I do not want to go back to the days of Rhodesia. Rhodesia was an evil, racist country. And it was a wrong country. It was everything. But one thing that everybody can agree on was that Rhodesia was the breadbasket of Africa. Rhodesia fed the continent. It's just what happened. And then what happened is they had a leader by the name of Robert Mugabe, who died recently. And what he did, because Rhodesia was, most of the nice land was owned by white people. So Mugabe took the land from the white people and said, no, you all can't just be taking this. This is stolen land and we're taking it back. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. But what Mugabe did was when he took that land, he didn't give it to people who would farm the land or who knew about farming the land, who could continue feeding the continent. He gave it to his buddies who didn't know jack shit, who didn't know anything about farming, the matriculation of farming, the intricacies of farming. They didn't know anything. And before you know it, that land was overgrown. Nothing was done. Nobody was planting anything, cooking anything, feeding anybody. The land was just wasted. So the white, I'm going to get rid of the white farmer. I'm going to take this land from him. I'm going to give it to my buddies. And now Zimbabwe is a country where people are starving. So my point is that it's the thing that I hate about my people is that if we're not bitching, we're begging, bitching or begging, bitching or begging. We get something, we don't use it to help our people. We're gonna just put it in our own damn pockets. When we get something after our years of bitching, that doesn't improve anything. And so I'm just thinking to myself, let's say, for example, Britain were to give another $1 billion to some of these countries, even though they already give a lot of money, aid to all these countries. What's another billion? That money isn't going to be used to help the people. No, it won't. I bet you my seat in heaven, if Britain were to give reparations to all these countries would continue to be as dirt poor as ever. Because the problem is not colonial. Yeah, colonialism was wrong. And anybody who says it wasn't wrong is a fool. Anybody who says slavery doesn't have a role to play in our struggles is a fool. They can go burn in hell. But that's not something that we should stick onto. Colonialism, slavery, all this stuff is not something that we should just stick onto. And by the way, let me just say this too. While I do say that colonialism was bad, I will say this, and I'm saying this as somebody who is a son of people who were colonized, people who were colonized, because my family is not American. My family is not even Canadian. My family comes from Caribbean. And they come from the Caribbean when it was colonized. My generation is the first generation to be born here in Canada. But my family comes from colonized Caribbean. I am the son of people who were colonized, who did live in Jamaica and Belize when it was British colonies. My father every morning grew up singing, "God save our gracious Queen, long save our gracious," and somebody in the class would hold a British flag. That's what my family was born into. Colonialism. I've got relatives who fought for the empire, World War II. My grandparents fought for. Grandfather, he chopped wood in Scotland for the empire. My other grandfather fought in North Africa, fighting the Italians, fighting Rommel and the Nazis for the empire. And I'll tell you this, the empire was not all good. It wasn't. But I'll tell you this. Number one, there's a reason why, if you were to give every single person in Africa, English-speaking Africa, and most people in English-speaking Caribbean a ticket to live in Britain forever, why those places would be completely swept clean of anybody living there. There's a reason for that. Because despite all the wrong that Britain did also find a place with no infrastructure, no development, and they built it. Helped a lot of people. They built universities, they built schools. The English-speaking world in Africa, there's a reason why the former British colonies are more educated, a little bit more advanced, a little bit more developed than, let's say, former speaking French colonies or Belgian, because, and we have to give the devil his due, we can't just sweep under the history under the rug. The British did take care to make sure that their colonies were a lot more advanced economically, infrastructure wise, educational wise, socially than the other uh, uh, colonies. And it's just a fact. It's a fact. It's a fact. The British government actually paid for my father to go to university. It's just something that happened. And I'm not saying that we should forget about colonialism. No, because there were times when, especially my father, he would talk about growing up. You know, he grew up with a language, Garifuna it's called. It's a very small language that Black people speak in Belize. And growing up, the teachers banned any language other than English to be spoken on the school grounds. And if they heard any language like Garifuna or Spanish or any other language other than English being spoken to by the children in the playground, those children would be called into the headmaster's office and they'd be whooped, they'd be whipped, beaten. You were not allowed to speak. So I'm not saying colonialism was all good, and I'm not saying I want to bring back colonialism, but we also have to give the devil his due as well. They did do bad things, and they also educated a hell of a lot of people. And that's the reason why there is, I mean, listen, why do you think that Britain has a migrant crisis right now? All these people from Africa and in the Middle East risking their lives, hiding in the back of trucks to illegally enter Britain. I mean, I thought Britain was the great Satan. And by the way, it's not just Britain they're trying to go into, it's France as well and Belgium. I mean, you've literally got people from the Congo, and Belgium was an awful country to the Congo. They used to chop people's hands off, chop people's genitals off. Belgium, they destroyed that country, Congo. And yet you still got people from the Congo willing to move to Belgium. So that says something about us. We like to attack the white man. We like to attack this. We like to attack that. But it's almost like we think that we are inferior. We think we're inferior. So it's like the white man owes us some. We can't do it ourselves. And you know, a lot of people are gonna say that I'm Uncle Tom or I'm a traitor. But oh, you're Uncle. I probably love my people more than any of you all. You can line up all the people marching in any Black Lives Matter parade, and you can hold a candlestick to my love for my people, because I'm not here sitting here saying that the white man owes us something. No, I'm saying that instead of blaming the white man, let's try and pull up our own bootstraps and do something for ourselves for a change. The white man has given us, I mean, listen, we've gotten our independence. We don't have the queen as our head of state. We elect all of this and that and that, and you're still bitching. I mean, come on, man. At least understand what I'm trying to say. Anyway, that's what I've got to say. It's just something that's really been on my mind. And again, this is a very painful video to talk. I really don't like making these type of videos. I especially don't like making these type of videos in front of white people, because this is a message that Black people need to be hearing. You know, I feel that when white people hear this sort of stuff, it's almost like they fetishize it, especially on bitch shit. I'm gonna get all these comments. Oh yeah, you're right, right on, Arana. Yeah, you tell them. I'm not really talking to you. I'm talking, because this is not for your entertainment. This is something that's true, as are all my videos. But it's something that had to be said. It's something that had to be said. It's really, really something that has to be said. And take it for what you want. I've said it, it's out there, and you can do with it what you like. Anyway, I'm not gonna hold myself any further. This is